Well, hello and welcome to the studios of Bedford Community Television. My name is Ray Chadwick. I'm your host today with this edition of Candidates Corner. Candidates Corner is a series of productions done by Bedford Community Television, in which case you get a chance to hear from the people you will see on the ballot on November 6th. We have with us today a first-time candidate for New Hampshire representative representing Bedford. His name is Mike Trento. Mike, thanks
Hello,
for coming
Ray.
in.
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
How's things going? This is your first time at this, right?
Yeah, it is actually. This is my first time running and putting myself out into the public eye.
What convinced you to do that? You were minding your own business, then somebody came along and said, hey, why don't you run for state rep?
Yeah.
What happened?
No, it's funny. So a couple of friends approached me and asked if I'd be interested in running. And of course, I thought about it at first, and I was like, is this really what I want to do to get into the public eye and do all those things? So I kind of, sat on it and talked to my wife and prayed on it and things like that as well. And, the over resounding yes came out and said I should run, based on trying to fix the things that are broken and keep those things that are working running smoothly.
Well, it's an important component of public service.
Correct.
Because we have a great legislature, second largest, I think, certainly in the world, I guess.
I think so.
Right after the U.S. Congress. And one of the advantages here is that everybody knows their rep. So it is a government very close to the people. So it's important the people that go up there have the right set of values. Now, you're a refugee from New Jersey, am I right?
Correct.
Yeah, I'm a refugee from New York. So you know what high-tax states are like.
Correct.
You know what corruption is like, because New Jersey has all manner. What brought you to New Hampshire?
So I actually got relocated for a job. It was a promotional thing. And my wife, at the time, we had two younger children. My wife was expecting. And we decided that, this promotion was good for me and the family. So we decided to make that move. And it was our first time moving out of New Jersey, of course, being residents of New Jersey for close to 30 years.
Whereabouts?
Yeah, and I grew up in Westfield, and my wife grew up in East Brunswick, New Jersey, just outside of like Rutgers area and things like that. But it was great because I had went to Plymouth State College, so I was a graduate from Plymouth State. So I knew of course, New Hampshire, the man on the mountain.
You were there.
But yeah, and I was there. And I also knew about Bedford and Manchester because I had friends and colleagues from college that graduated from there. So I knew that it felt the right thing to do was to move to New Hampshire and raise our family here. And what turned out we thought was going to be a 5-year stint, we're going on 15 years in Bedford. Of course, my wife is, when are we moving back or when are we moving? But anyway, so I think we're doing all right, and we appreciate being up here, and it's a fun, it's a great place to raise children, I believe.
Well, it's a great place for a political experience, actually. The First in the Nation primary, all these kinds of things are so very important in the state, and in my opinion, also an important role relative to the rest of the country, because this is the kind of place where people are used to talking to their rep. All 400 of them. So it's a culture that sort of supports all of that. So you went to Plymouth State. What's your background or educational background?
Yeah, so I went to Plymouth for accounting, business degree in accounting, with a minor in mathematics, which usually was my weakest thing, became my strongest thing.
Wow.
Right?
That's a turnaround.
Yeah, so it was, and actually was referred to me from a guidance counselor from high school. Said, you should apply to Plymouth State, and I said, well, where's that? And she said in New Hampshire. I said, wow, that's pretty far from New Jersey. 6 hours is not that far, but it's far enough.
Right.
So it was good, and going into the business arena and learning accounting, and then my first job right out of college was working for one of the big 6 accounting firms at the time.
Price Waterhouse.
Price Waterhouse, yeah.
Very big firm.
Which is
Prestigious.
very prestigious, and but yeah, it was great background and experience based on my upbringing, and I grew up extremely poor. So there was a 2020 thing years ago that said that people who have experiences in their lives, they kind of tend to go towards those. So if you had medical issues, you become a doctor. If you had financial issues, you go into the finance arena. And I think that's what kind of drove me to focus on that and help myself and my family, move on and do the things that we need to do as proud American families.
So you wound up taking your initial experience.
Correct.
And that motivated you to move out of that experience. It's always interesting. Some people get submerged under their experience, and other people rise above it and
Agreed.
fight back against it. Sounds like you've done the latter.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I always tell my kids, kind of a joke in our house is when my mom used to tell me to go to my room, I'd climb over the back seat of the station wagon because we actually, we actually unfortunately lived in a car for a year, and and that was rough.
Was this in New Jersey?
In New Jersey, yeah, around 1977.
The winters there aren't all that great,
and
either.
they're not all that great, and it was hard. But my mother kept, even though we had this turmoil in our lives, she actually kept us together as a family unit, which you would think would be very challenging, especially in the late 70s with going into the 80s and the different economy at the time. But yeah, she held us together as much as she could with everybody. I'm one of 7 children and then things like that. So it's a big family, and there was a lot going on back then in the 70s. But yeah, really that experience is what helped me be the person that I am today, and also share that with my family and my children. To want to strive to do anything that they can. They put their mind to it, you can do anything you can, or that you want to do.
I think that's totally the case. And the important part, I think, of government, okay, is to manage certain aspects of its constitutional duty and put in place a system that allows people to prosper and rise. I mean, even to the U.S. Constitution, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, which in my opinion is the engine that lets people come from around the world and rise to whatever level they can. Now in New Hampshire, over the last 2 years, with our Governor Sununu and the Republican majorities in Concord, both the House, Senate, and the Governor's Council, the economy's up. Now, some of that is an offshoot of the national economy, which was kick-started by the tax cuts and the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, actually, is what they called it.
Right.
But I think that's one of the important things, is to promote and enable a system that allows people to make their own choices, have more of the benefit of their efforts, more in their pocket, less going to government, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So I assume you're going to be a supporter of that kind of thing if the voters send you up there, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I think, the way the economy is rolling right now is an important aspect of, for all residents of New Hampshire, Bedford, and the country in general. And I think the way everything is running smoothly right now is the way it should be, and the way I think, our president, our governor, and everybody is trying to focus on the things that are important to us as Americans, and focusing on America first, which is a beautiful concept. I think it's great, and it helps us all in our things that we want to do in our lives with retirement and prosperity. I think that's definitely the track that I will focus on. When elected.
I'm always fascinated by people that want to argue with the idea of America as a stellar exercise in democracy and Republican government, a small r Republican, okay?
Right.
And really the place to which people will even today risk their lives to come here, legally, illegally, et cetera, et cetera. It's hard for me to see why people would not support that as a concept, and I know the president articulates it very forcefully. And I'm occasionally wonder whether people are just, their animosity to him is trying to get them to go against it. So how long were you with Price Waterhouse?
So I was with Price Waterhouse for about 5 years.
Okay.
I left there as a senior advisory business service senior. And I just, at the point, I knew I didn't want to be a partner there at the time. It wasn't the way I wanted to go. So I started actually working with Shearing Plow right after that in corporate audits, and really got to see the world. I mean, a poor kid from Newark, New Jersey originally. And got to go to 16 different countries on Shearing Plow and places I would never had been before. Japan, Russia, Prague, Switzerland, you name it, I've been there. And it was great too, because I learned a lot about our country from an outside looking in approach. From you look at the way the European and Eastern Europeans look at the United States. So it was really neat experience that I try to share that with my children too. And doing travel, we just went to Italy actually this past August. To go back to my roots, because my parents were immigrants from Italy, and my grandparents as well. So having that background experience, seeing how they came into the States, and going back to what you were just saying, why they came for that American dream, and coming in the right way, as you said, they risked a lot because they left basically their homes and had nothing coming back, and they kind of just built themselves up to be strong,
over.
proud Americans.
Yeah.
So
I think an international experience like you've had,
Right.
which I've been fortunate enough to have in my career too, but it does give you a perspective on how different societies,
Right.
countries, organize themselves, the
Right.
types of things they consider important. And the other thing is, it gives you a vision of the country, the United States,
Right.
from an outsider perspective, because most of the time we're all, paying attention to what's going on here as
That's right.
opposed to the rest.
That's right.
Anyway, let me ask you a question. You eventually went into, I guess, entrepreneurial endeavor, and if I could, all the viewers will love this, and if I've got this right, this is indoor bounce houses for birthday parties. Am I right?
Correct.
That's pretty cool.
Correct.
Tell me about it. How'd you get into that?
Yeah, so it's funny. My wife Allison and I, we wanted to create a family business,
Yep.
right? We had 3 kids, my son Brandon and my daughter Morgan, my son Presley. And we basically had no place to do their birthdays. And my wife, just moving here from New Jersey, we were like, where are we going to have their birthdays? There's no places like we had in New Jersey. So I looked at some franchises and different things came along, and Bounce U was one. I said, well, this is amazing. This was like an idea that I had,
Yeah.
to try to build a franchise where you could do birthday parties. And opening it in Bedford was neat because I had to come to the committee and kind
Sure.
of present the plan.
Right, the
So
plan.
that was my first time actually presenting to the committee about what I wanted to do. But it was just a really great family concept business, and people had a blast. So it wasn't only, we did birthday parties primarily, but
Sure.
we've did charitable events for our Promise for Nicholas, the New Hampshire Food Bank, American Cancer Society, Emma's Enchantment, all these different local charities. And as I mentioned, being poor, my mom used to use food banks all the time. And
Right.
so being able to give back and do that, like everything, I did that day when I did their event, 100% of the proceeds went to them. We kept nothing, even though we had to pay the franchisees,
Sure, right.
the revenue piece. But we said, no, this is good. This is the right thing to do. It was great. I mean, we did so many things and built a lot of strong community
meet a lot of
ties.
people there, I
and meet
imagine,
a
right?
ton of people. You say Joe Public is always there and always
Sure.
watching, so you always have to do the right things. And people used to say the most amazing things about our Bounce U, that it was the cleanest, the most fun, and everybody's so friendly. And we had teenagers running the parties, which is a lot
Yeah.
of energy and power. So
Right,
we had a lot
right.
of people coming through. And things like that. I almost had Adam Sandler come one time, actually.
really?
Yeah, I was
That
really
would've been
trying
cool.
hard to get somebody to come, but it didn't happen.
As part
that
of his
way.
Big Daddy role, I imagine, right?
Exactly. But yeah, it was a great business, and unfortunately, the turn of the market kind of gave us a kind of a punch in the gut, and we had to
right.
shut the doors, which was a hard decision. Not really on the financial piece of it, but more on the community activities and things that we
Well,
did.
Yeah, you get used to that
You do.
engagement, right? Yeah.
You do, and people were, we had kids coming up to us who were still wearing Bounce U shirts and crying that that we're shutting down, and the parents like, oh, we're so upset. But there's other great businesses in the area that
Yeah.
people could use. But as a small business owner, you really learn the things you do right and some of the things that could always improve and become opportunities
Yeah.
to improve in the future. That's another thing that I'm passionate about. I think small businesses don't get a fair shake sometimes, and I would like to, those are the types of things that I would like to look at to see, if there's committees that are out there. I want to be part of those to kind of help out with personal experience and
Sure.
and knowing what some of the things that we should and should not do as a business
Well, I think
owner.
that's certainly something, should you be elected into the legislature, you'll have the chance to do that.
Right.
That's been one of Governor Sununu's initiatives, one of the Republican initiatives, which
Right.
is to build up small businesses. And people occasionally criticize the parties, oh, all you care about is business. Well,
Right.
that's not all they care about.
Correct.
But robust business is where jobs come from.
Correct.
Jobs are where income comes from. That's where people's choices. You get choices.
Right.
If you have money, some left over, of course,
Of
then
course.
you have some choices with what to do with it. So
Mm-hmm.
the whole idea behind where the Republicans seem to come from is leave more of your money in your pocket.
Right.
That's especially true this time because we've got, it's amazing, the Democrats' gubernatorial candidate, when she was in the Senate, she proposed a series of taxes, and my favorite one is to propose applying the rooms and meals tax if you rented a campsite at a state park. I'm going, wow, I mean, and most people don't think of something like that, but
Right.
that is sort of the ideology there.
Right.
So, say you get up to Concord, you got any thoughts on committees you'd want to be on?
Yeah, so and talking to some of my Republican colleagues as
Sure.
well, and some of the committees they've been on, I'd be very interested in the budget committee,
Right,
Just
exactly.
because of my background and experience, and having a balanced budget is what we got through our governor now. So that's a good thing, because that means more money in the people's pockets and things like that, which is to do things and,
Right.
and to be able to enjoy your families and have those extracurricular activities that are that become expense to us. To have less taxes is always a good thing. So being on the budgetary committee and having a balanced budget,
Right.
which I know that's very hard to get sometimes.
Well, it's hard to get, but it's mandatory.
It's mandatory,
'cause
that's
we can't
right,
print
yeah.
money here. Unfortunately, they seem to be able to do that in Washington.
yeah.
But frankly, one of the budget issues, it's not just the reducing taxes.
Right.
What they've done, they reduced taxes. This is, I think, the second budget that's been done, mostly business taxes, electric taxes, taxes on your electricity,
course.
all more money in your pocket. But the other thing that they have done, and it's intriguing, they plowed a lot of money back into the towns and cities.
Correct.
Because they reduced taxes, the economy took off, they're gaining more income through taxes,
Right.
even at lower rates, and the net result is now they've taken some of the surplus, given it back to towns for roads and infrastructure maintenance, given it back to towns, including Bedford,
Right.
which has had a couple of pretty major checks,
Of course.
for school safety. So there's an argument coming, I think, with the Democrats, because they're arguing we need to reduce property taxes. The last budget actually gave money back to the towns, should be property taxes,
Right.
and the Democrats voted against doing that. So it's fascinating to me that
Yeah.
now we're going to fix this problem for you. No, wait a minute.
Right.
You had the chance and you voted against it.
Right. Yeah. Not good. Not good.
Yeah. Well, I think small business is the place where you get to really deal with regulatory overreach.
Right.
And that's another area that I think you'd probably want to get involved in, I would say.
No doubt. And also, when I was in Plymouth, I also, after I graduated, went back for my MBA a few years back, and I actually taught as an adjunct professor business classes, and how to taught kids how to interview and how to do interviews and how to create presentations and how to present. So those are good things to do too. And so on an educational side, that would be something I'd be very interested,
Right.
down the line. Those are two big walloping type committees to be on. So I'll have to figure out time and all those things as well. But
Yeah.
I think they're really good committees to be a part of.
Well, it would be, and especially in today's economy. The other fascinating, I was reading the other day that the state of New Hampshire has the lowest poverty rate in the country, second lowest unemployment rate in the country, and the sixth highest median income in the country.
Right.
So I think it's unarguable. Things are doing pretty well with the
Yeah.
team we got running the show up there. So I would advocate, of course, we continue that.
Yes.
But one of the issues that comes with a robust economy is pretty much people are looking for a workforce,
Right.
because all the jobs get snapped up, and now you're having to pay more for people, which means wages go up. But they keep coming back to the question, we've got to find the skills, and we've got to work with the education system to build skills for the future. What are your
Right.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think, building those skills for the future is very important, because I know, I have a son in college and I have a daughter and son who are going to go to college soon, and they need to be prepared to take over, right? The
Right.
millennials need to be prepared to take over when everybody else is retired and moving
We don't
on.
want to
and
keep doing this forever, right?
I can't, right? Yeah. My birthday's coming up, and it's going to be a big one. So, but yeah, our children need to be prepared, especially our young college students that are coming out and graduating, to be able to get into the workforce, whatever that may be, to continue to prosper and move their families forward. So I think it's very important when you look at those types of things of how we need to have a laser focused on that, because we lose a lot of ground from, other countries and how their children and students kind of study and work hard and things like that. We got to have that same focus with our
Yeah, I
kids to
think
be able to do it.
and that's pretty clearly a problem.
Yes.
If you look at, especially in STEM, science, technology, engineering,
Right.
and mathematics.
Mathematics, right.
Other countries are really focusing on these things.
Right.
And it's not quite as big a focus here, and it
Right.
needs to be more, in my opinion. People articulate, Dean Kamen, for example.
Yeah, of course.
But those are the kinds of things that I think we need
Right.
more of, and that's all engagement with business.
You're
So
right,
it sounds
correct.
like you've got the background in the math, educational, business.
Right, exactly.
Good. So that all
So that's good.
That should fit in
I'm
pretty
ready to
well, I
go.
would say.
Let's get on those committees. That's what I got to do now.
Well, it's going to take a lot of time.
Yeah,
You
no
got enough
doubt.
time to do this, I assume.
Yeah, I have
That's
a
a tough
flexible.
choice.
It is a tough choice, and you have to balance everything. And life is a balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't have made the decision if I didn't have the time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I have, another, I've got my family life and my work life and my representative life in the future. There'll be time to do it. There's
Okay.
24 hours in a day, so use them all.
You don't sleep?
Maybe
not, right?
As much as I need to. My doctor recommends at least 8 hours. So.
Yeah. That's what they always say.
Exactly.
I agree. Tell me other things that you're excited about, values, things like that.
Yeah, so when I first came on board and started the campaign, honesty, integrity, and family values were always very important to me. Of course, I think those are important to everybody, but I do enjoy travel with my family and seeing how they progress and my children, how they become strong, upstanding citizens and work hard in school to do their best. I mean, I think that's great. I mean, and living in New Hampshire, you get the best of all worlds because you could go skiing, you could go to the beach, you could go to Boston, and things like that. It's just good places to be. And then you just even downtown Manchester has had a big change, and there's a lot of great restaurants and things like that. So there's so much to do here that I think is great.
Yeah.
And when people come up to visit us from New Jersey, it's like coming to a bed and breakfast. They say, I don't have to go anywhere for the foliage, just look out my back
look
door.
out the window.
Just look out the
Exactly
window.
right.
And that's what's beautiful and things like that. So, I mean, those are the things I value the most because, at the end of the day, that's what you end up with, is your family and your experiences, and you hope to make an impact in anything that you do, and you hope your children do the same. So,
yeah, I think caring and nurturing for children, turning them from unruly little
rug monsters.
folks, yes, right,
Rug
rugrats, into honest, caring, upstanding citizens is the job.
Exactly.
I mean, that is the job of parenting, in my opinion, and getting them the education and the skills to be able to get into the marketplace.
Right.
And that goes back to, what are you teaching yourself?
Exactly.
Because I see people that get degrees.
Right.
And it was great. We went to, I forget, we were over in Hampton, and we were talking to a young man who was a college student. He was there being the valet. So I asked him where he went to school, and he said, I'm going to UNH. I said, what are you studying? He says, well, I'm studying finance and accounting.
Yeah.
I said, well, that's good. You could probably get a job at that. And he made a comment. He said, some of the degrees people go for,
Right.
It's hard to see how you could make a long-term career out of it.
Right.
But anyway, that it was just interesting. He was mature enough to have figured that out.
Right.
Which doesn't surprise me. I mean, you can figure that out if you look at job statistics. It's
Correct.
not hard to do.
Right.
Not hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a big deal election,
Right.
Because I think people have to come to the conclusion, are things going well? It's like back in the Clinton days where James Carville made the comment that the phrase should be, it's the economy. It's the economy.
Right.
And the economy is doing well, nationally, in the state. So that leads you to the question, why would you change that?
Right.
And I'm watching, the Democrats are running candidates, and I've seen them for Congress. We see them for rep. Very popular folks. Everybody knows them from this or that.
Right.
But sort of the challenge comes, you're not just electing a candidate. Like the people watching today, they're not just electing you.
Right.
They're electing, and if they elect you, their vote could make you their rep. Making you their rep could give, in your case, Republicans the majority.
Correct.
Or if they're so inclined.
Right.
Democrats the majority. So it's not just a person. It is an ideology. It
Right.
is a agenda.
Right.
And the Republican agenda is pretty clearly lower the cost of government so you have more money for you to decide on.
Right.
Security, things like that.
Right.
But this is a very important change, and especially nationally.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. I mean, that's exactly, when you look at what is important to you, job security is definitely very important because I need, lower unemployment rates are great, meaning that if I have the job security, I'm able to invest more into my children's future and, of course, my own. I mean, I don't complain how the economy has moved. And my 401k looks really, really nice, and I want to keep it that way. So having that extra oomph from a national level and also from a state level, I think is extremely important to give us that more money in our paycheck so we have the ability to do the things, one, that we like to do, and also the things that we need to do.
Yep, exactly.
So I think that's extremely important. And voting, voting for people you like is okay, but you got to look at what they
what are they
stand
gonna
for.
do?
What are they going to do
Right.
when they get in there? And what
and
do they stand for?
if they go there, they will be the vanguard of, in this case, the Democrat agenda,
Right.
or not. And I had, at the time the Berlin Wall came down, I was
Right.
actually working for a German company, so I was in Europe. And people are talking today about socialism. Well, I actually saw that.
Right.
I saw the poverty when that Iron Curtain opened and I could travel over there. That is not what we want here.
Right.
What we want here is something like what we're doing right now.
Exactly.
We're running out of time,
All
so
right.
why don't you take a minute or two and make your pitch directly
Yeah,
to the
so-
voters and tell
so,
them why they should send you up there.
Yeah. So again, Michael Trento, running for office to be the state rep for Bedford, New Hampshire. I think a vote for me and my Republican colleagues is the right thing to do for New Hampshire. I look at it that if things are right for my family, I got to think that it's going to be right for your family as well. And if you like the way the economy is moving right now, and you like lower taxes, and you like more money to be able to do the things, and you like balanced budgets to be able to do the things for our town, then you have a decision to make on November 6th, and it's not an easy one. But when you're in that booth and you're pulling those slots or writing in those numbers or writing in the dots, make sure that you vote for Mike Trento and my Republican candidates to keep the economy rolling.
Yep. All the Republican candidates from top to bottom.
Exactly. That's right.
Well, Mike, it's been great having you in here and chatting about this. So I think, as we talk, this is going to be a consequential election. And,
Agreed.
And in my opinion, because I'm firmly a believer in the Republican platform and the ideology, it makes investments in the economy. It makes investments in people. It's made investments in towns.
Right.
And mostly, it's made investments in people's freedoms. The ability to go out and have the freedom, have a few little less money going to government and in your pocket so you can decide. So I think those are the keys. If you want to make your choice, ladies and gentlemen, look at the party platforms when you're voting for a representative. Keep in mind, you could be voting for that platform. And if you vote for the Republicans, you'll get pretty much more of the good things that are happening right now. So make an informed choice and make your vote count. Have a good day.